Commerce and Industry, along with the Aditya Birla CSR Center for Excellence, and partnered by Vodafone, which is the shared value partner, Engineers India Limited, the co-theme partner, the Embassy of the Republic of Korea as the country partner, and supported by the International Labour Organization. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity to extend a very warm welcome and also invite on the dais our chief guest, Shri Anurag Thakur, Honorable Member of Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a very warm welcome to our chief guest. May I also take this opportunity to invite on the dais our other distinguished dignitaries, His Excellency Mr. Jung Jio Lee, Ambassador of the Republic of Korea and India, Mrs. Rajshri Birla, Chairperson of FICCI CSR and Community Development Committee, Ms. Tina Stymos, Director, International Labour Organization, Mr. Rohit Adya, Director, External Affairs, Vodafone India Limited, Ms. Jyoti Vij, Deputy Secretary General of FICCI, and Dr. K.K. Upadhyay, Head of CSR FICCI. Once again, an extremely warm welcome to you all. May I now request Mrs. Rajshri Birla to kindly welcome our Chief Guest, Honorable Member of Parliament, Shri Anurag Thakur, with a bouquet of flowers. Thank you, Mrs. Birla. In spite of India being a growing economy, it is the 10th largest economy in the world and the 3rd largest by purchasing power parity. However, its growth has been only in certain sectors and benefited only a part of the large section of its population. Even today, many people lack the basic necessities of life. People have to be at the center of development. The strengths and assets of multi-stakeholders are extremely necessary for creating a milieu for economic growth that leads to social, environment, and as well as institutional stability, sustainability. To achieve greater inclusiveness, it will depend on the distribution of income, employment creation, and its gender dimensions, among various other factors. It is important that the Indian industry, which is among the largest in the world and has some of the most advanced plants and technologies available globally, come forward to contribute towards inclusive growth, primarily through CSR projects. Although many business organizations have come forward, there is still much to be done and achieved. Many Indian firms as well as Indian subsidiaries of MNCs are now adopting new business models of CSR that can address environmental and social challenges valuably through their core business. They say that CSR isn't a particular program, it is what we have to do every day, maximizing the positive impact and minimizing the negative impact. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference is being held with these certain objectives in mind. The need of the hour is to identify priority areas for collective action and build on current processes. And this conference is going to focus on new innovations in implementing corporate social responsibility at the grassroots levels, as well as better understanding on how to solve both environmental and social challenges through CSR. New ideas and innovations for models and best practices, both through national and international experiences, shall be deliberated upon. With these words, I would like to now request Ms. Jyoti Vij, Deputy Secretary General FICCI, and I request her to kindly make her welcome address.
Good morning, everybody. A very warm welcome to this morning's conference. A very important topic indeed. A very warm welcome to our chief guest, Mr. Anurag Thakur. Mrs. Birla, thank you for always being there with us to guide us in this process. Honorable Ambassador of Republic of Korea, Mr. Adya from Vodafone, Mr. Stemos from the International Labour's Organization. Ladies and gentlemen, CSR indeed is not a new concept, but it is this legislation, the new legislation, which seems to have really made CSR a buzzword, at least in the current context. Particularly for FICCI, we've been in it for a long while. Many of you would perhaps know that FICCI was actually founded on the call of Mahatma Gandhi to bring all the domestic industry, the Indian industry together to join them in the freedom movement. And at the very fourth AGM, when Mahatma Gandhi addressed, and here is the quote right behind you, where he said that industry should regard themselves as trustees and servants of the poor. So this is the ethos that we have followed, and this is what inspired us to really get into this field very early on, much before even the legislation or mandatory legislation of the CSR was ever thought of. It was way back in 1997 that FICCI had set up a socio-economic development foundation, and about early 2000s is when the Aditya Birla group came up, and with them we set up this FICCI Aditya Birla Center. And we've been working a lot with both the corporates and the CSOs in terms of capacity building, in terms of identifying good work being done in this space. And it is from that perspective that we started the CSR Awards way back in 14 years back, where we've been recognizing the good work which is being done in partnership, the corporates and the NGO partnerships that have been there in the space. And now, of course, with new legislation, it's expected that about 20 to 30,000 crores per annum is expected to come into the field. I mean, this is just the beginning. Probably the next year would be the first year for us to really know what is the impact of the legislation, whether it actually converts into or not. But given that there is this kind of an expectation that is building up, there is a need to indeed channelize this money. Of course, a lot of work is being done. As I said, we also do these awards. We have groups like Aditya Birla doing absolutely fabulous work in this space for many, many years. Yet, I think if so many companies have to come into the fray, there is a need to channelize the effort. FICCI here would like to play a role of a facilitator. There are NGOs on one side who do wonderful work. They have understanding of the actual needs of the community. They're doing absolutely beautiful work in many spaces. On the other hand, you have the corporates willing to do it. They have the funding, but perhaps not exactly knowing which are the areas to get into, etc. So we could help them, actually handhold them right through, from the stage of project formulation to the implementation, getting them to meet the right partners, assess the program as we go along, help them monitor, evaluate. We have identified a couple of partners already. We can probably share those details. I think we'll be sharing some of the concept notes with you as we go along in the day. So this is where I think what we intend to do is to help you document these. There are some projects which are already existing, so we have been documenting some of them, make these a little more organized, help the companies conceptualize the new projects, undertake some of the feasibility studies. We could help submit the proposals from the corporate firms, and on the NGO side, help capacity build, help in kind of meeting the right partners on the other side, and create some kind of an aggregation effort, so that there is a meaningful impact on the ground of all of these. This is just a beginning. We'll be happy to get a feedback from all of you as to where you think the FICCI, role can actually fit in. We've been with Aditya Birla Center under Mrs. Birla's guidance. We've been doing a lot of work in terms of connecting the corporates and the NGOs, but this is, a way of doing it in a little more organized way. So with these words, thank you once again, and thank you all our guests here, and we look forward to some meaningful discussions during the day. I hand it over to now Mrs. Birla to take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Page, for your extremely warm welcome address and also for setting the tone for this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, we are extremely pleased to have with us Mrs. Rajshri Birla, Chairperson, FICCI CSR and Community Development Committee. As Chairperson of the Aditya Birla Center for Community Initiatives and Rural Development, the apex body responsible for development projects. Mrs. Birla oversees the group's social and welfare work driven across 30 companies. In the last 10 years that she has been spearheading the activity, the Aditya Birla Group has enlarged its scope of activities based on the intensive assessment of the needs of the communities. Ladies and gentlemen, with these words, may I now invite Mrs. Rajshri Birla to kindly give her special address.
Good morning, dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, I'm delighted to be with all of you this morning and share my thoughts on mobilizing CSR initiatives for maximum impact and some of the steps towards inclusive growth. I go back to the Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi's address on our 68th Independence Day. Spoken from the heart and the head, it was totally electrifying. Independence Day is an occasion to take a pledge for the welfare of all those who are downtrodden, poor, exploited, and oppressed, and to do something for them, averred Shri Modi, and the angst in his voice was palpable. He spoke with a fervor of a possessed social reformer and very closely established a connect with thousands of millions of our fellow countrymen, striking a chord in every Indian. The vision and relevance of the PM's speech is more pronounced in today's age when so many of us are committed to a new India. We despair over the fact that after nearly 7 decades of freedom, our country is not yet free from the yoke of poverty. Every government has been seized of the issue and in its own way has worked towards building a society that would be free of major inequalities and exploitation. Over these decades, many corporates, through their committed engagement, have labored hard to lift the burden of poverty from the lives of thousands. Together, in all sincerity, we think we have all made some difference. But there is much more to be done is beyond doubt. I believe to work holistically in this domain, whereby you try and make a difference to the lives of the underprivileged, you definitely need several partnerships, such as the NGOs in specialized fields, for instance, education, healthcare, water, sanitation, sustainable livelihood programs, and also importantly, the community for the sense of ownership and responsibility, the academia for research and audit, other influentials, the government, of course, in order to leverage the enormous development funds that they allocate, and finally, the corporates. Together as corporates, all of us then endeavor to texture the social development programs for the marginalized for the maximum impact, performance management, and accountability. And I'm going to come back to these thoughts in some time. Today, with the new company law, CSR having become an imperative, is indeed serious business. Incidentally, India is the only country in the world to have roped in corporates in this domain and to have made CSR mandatory. For us at the Aditya Birla Group, it was always so. Right from the start, my grandfather-in-law, Shri Ghanshyam Dasji Birla, who was a close confidant of Mahatma Gandhi, ingrained the trusteeship concept of management as explained by Mahatma Gandhi. While carrying forward this philosophy, my husband, Aditya wove in the concept of sustainable livelihood aimed at making people self-reliant. And taking these practices forward, my son, Kumarmangalam Birla, has crystallized the three P's. As Kumarmangalam Hours, our thrust is on the three crucial dimensions of people, planet, and profit. Kumar Mangalam has raised the bar very high in this view. We must give our social projects the same kind of importance as we give to our business projects. So, just as for companies, we have a business vision, for our social projects, we have evolved a social vision. In a nutshell, it epitomizes inclusive growth and dignifying the lives of the underprivileged. So you identify very well with the philosophy of transcending business and reaching out to the underserved communities. While we do not turn business into a cause, we do social cause marketing. We turn it into a lever where the ROI or the return of investment comes from the transformation of people's lives, and which is what every organization espouses. And this is the need of the hour. As John Rockefeller said, and I quote, every thoughtful man must conceive that the purpose of industry is quite as much the advancement of social well being as the production of wealth. In the new CSR milieu, this thought will be embedded even further in every nook and cranny of the corporate landscape. Let me allude again to the Prime Minister's Independence Day speech, wherein he said, and I quote him, each of our MPs should make one village of his or her constituency a model village. This is particularly encouraging as to build the nation we have to secure the foundations of our villages. Gandhiji always said that India lives in its villages. We firmly believe that this is the way forward for maximizing the social impact of CSR projects. Very humbly, I would like to state that this was one of our path-breaking CSR initiatives in our group, begun more than a decade ago. We evolved a concept of model village, giving a definite shape. So, of the 3,000 villages in which we work, we thought of transforming 300 villages into model villages over time through the Aditya Birla Center for Community Initiatives and Rural Development, which I am privileged to spearhead. Kumar Mangalam, Shri Askaranji Agarwal, and Dr. Pragya Ram are on the board. Making of a model village entails ensuring self-reliance in all aspects with education, healthcare, and family welfare, infrastructure, agriculture, watershed management, and working towards sustainable livelihood patterns. Basically, in the villages which we adopted, more than 80% of the people were living below the poverty line. Our objective was to make a paradigm shift and over a 5-year time frame, lift 90% of those below the poverty line to above the poverty line. Our strategy to actualize our vision has been fivefold. It is premised primarily on people-centric development approaches geared towards sustainable development processes. To give you the flavor of our work, the processes involved, and more importantly, to help its replication, I believe sharing in-depth insights of our experience would be worthwhile. So let me begin with the steps and processes we follow. Firstly, our focus is on helping people become self-reliant through the engine of sustainable livelihood. This encompasses agriculture and watershed development and women empowerment processes through the setting up of self-help groups as well. Let me briefly walk you through just one aspect of the process, citing our experience in Uttar Pradesh. During the course of survey, we discovered that the villagers had to face innumerable problems. In the agricultural hinterland of these villages in Uttar Pradesh, most of the fields were parched as the water table was abysmally low. There were hardly any water, and the land was of an undulating nature as well. Besides this, there were problems of water runoff and topsoil erosion. Irrigation proved to be both cumbersome and complex, causing great misery to the farmers. We decided to resolve this issue in a holistic manner. We introduced a structured program of agriculture and watershed development. Our aim has been 1. To ensure the optimum use of land and water resources, 2. Raise the groundwater table through harnessing the available water resources, recharging the groundwater, and 3. Installing easy to operate appropriate water lifting technologies. To raise the performance level of the farmers and their farmlands through improved productivity, additionally, we conduct farmer training programs. Here, farmers are exposed to the best in class agriculture practices, actually using demonstration plots. To enable them to shore up their earnings, they are taught intercropping as well. To increase the productivity of the farm through the seed multiplication program, we encourage them to harvest cash crops and vegetables that can fetch them a better price. Likewise, helping procure milch cattle of the villages and backing them with marketing support by buying off most of the milk of for our own factory has helped lower the poverty baseline very significantly. Promoting multi-cropping so that the return on the investment of the farmers is enhanced forms part of the processes. Incidentally, in Odisha, Keonjhar district, over a 40-acre land spanning 8 villages, we fostered the triple layer vegetable cultivation based on the Machan system. At the underground level, we had the tuber crop. The second on ground, we helped cultivate vegetables, and the third level, which is 6 feet above the ground, we cultivated vegetables that are creepers like karela, pumpkin, etc. This has helped community immensely. Moving on to the second point, which is on sustainable livelihood, we began providing vocational training skills, again concentrating on closing the loop through employment linkages in at least 75% of the populace trained. Often we found that some of the trainees wanted to strike out on their own. They were interested in setting up small shops to offer their services and products. We thought this was a good way to encourage entrepreneurship. Thirdly, through sparking the desire for education, raising the literacy rates through pursuing 100% enrollment in schools with a zero dropout rate is an aspiration. Fourthly, our emphasis is on providing health care, which entails working towards zero infant mortality and zero maternal mortality rate. Of course, this is an audacious goal. If we keep it on the radar, then at least the mortality rate will fall to the desired level. And when we talk of healthcare, we must look at 100% institutional delivery and immunization. Alongside access to safe drinking water, prevention of disease born out of water and unhygienic conditions, as well as ensuring proper sanitation facilities, form 3 critical planks in the healthcare domain. Fifthly, facilitating infrastructure, increasing green cover through tree plantation and social reform, we feel are an imperative. So this is also a part of our endeavor. Project audits are conducted to gauge how far we have traversed vis-a-vis the milestones. In all our projects, we work with related government departments, panchayat, and NGOs, and the community. Some of the NGOs who work with us in UP include BEF, NABARD, Habitat for Humanity International, Rotary International, to cite just a few. We find that such alignments help deliver the best results. A great example is that of India becoming polio-free country. For more than a decade, we in the Aditya Birla Group had been pursuing the polio eradication drive with missionary zeal. At over 15 plants in our group and in Mumbai, our CSR teams ensure that all children from the time of their birth up until the age of 5 are vaccinated. Over the last 5 years, we have helped vaccinate nearly 22 million children, managing 73,693 booths. Our teams operate at railway stations and other critical points as well to ensure that children are immunized. Consequent to our collective zeal, that of the Government of India, Rotary International, WHO, and our group, admirably backed by UNICEF, CDC, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, India was declared a polio-free country. This is a unique example of massive mobilization for social impact. Moving back to the topic of model villages, our overarching goal is to fundamentally make certain that the development in the village which we adopt reaches a stage wherein the village committee takes over the complete responsibility and our teams become dispensable. Today, some of our model villages in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, and Gujarat have won the President's Nirmal Gram Award. This pulling out of thousands of people out of their poverty, dignifying their life, is absolutely the greatest break for us. And this is an experiment worthy of implementation by all corporates. You can see the palpable difference in these villages and the people. We have witnessed how tens of thousands of villagers now seem self-assured, confident, and happy at being able to move towards a sustainable livelihood and a decent life. There is newfound dignity among them as they celebrate a new life. We could never have come so far if we did not have the backing of the government, the district authorities, the panchayats, and all the NGOs working with us, and the community supporting us to the hilt. I believe this collective zeal is the best example of mobilizing multiple stakeholders for maximum social impact. I would most earnestly appeal to you to follow the Model Village initiative. It is a holistic, integrated approach geared to better the lives of the underprivileged in the best possible manner. On this route, we can all aspire to see the India of our dreams come true, an India of inclusive growth, an India where every person realizes his or her optimal potential, an India where every human being lives a life of dignity, an India that can hold a head high in the hegemony of nations. And we must all present leaders and leaders in the making must work this talk with a sense of urgency. Together we can make this India's destiny. Let us astound ourselves by making this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Birla, for your kind address, and it is indeed very heartening to know all the noble causes that you and your organization have been untiring working towards. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now request Mrs. Rajshri Birla to kindly present the book titled Collaborative Approach for CSR Project to our Chief Guest, Honorable Member of Parliament Shri Anurag Thakur, and may I request him to kindly release the same. Ladies and gentlemen, this book is an initiative by the CSR Department of FICCI. Along with the various essential literature on project management, this book throws light upon the various CSR projects and initiatives. 22 successful projects by various organizations in India have been highlighted as best practices and models to be followed, especially in the Indian context. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us His Excellency Mr. Jean Geoli, who is the Ambassador of the Republic of Korea to India. He has held many distinguished posts in various countries, including the Counselor of the Korean Embassy in Japan, Minister Counselor, Korean Embassy in the People's Republic of China, Ambassador Extraordinary, and Plenipotentiary to New Zealand, to name a few. He was awarded the Order of Service Merit Red Stripes in the year 2003 in December. And with these words, I would like to